Please try to return to your seats so we can get started and stay on time. In fact, if I could just have your attention, we'll go ahead and introduce the next session while you all get your coffee and treats. This is our student session in which we will hear from a panel of undergraduate students and one graduate student about their perspectives on student success, what has helped them succeed, what barriers to success they've encountered, and they'll offer their insights on what we can do as an institution to enhance their success. The panel will be moderated by President of Student Government, Mr. Cesar Hernandez. He is a senior majoring in biomedical science, and he's also a member of the Student Success Council who has supported this conference. So I thank you for so many reasons. Cesar.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for being here. As he stated, I'm Cesar Hernandez. I'm student body president and trustee for the greatest university in the nation, the University of South Florida. My hometown is Brooklyn, New York, and big ups to New York. And three of the avenues in which I was engaged in is one through my fraternity, Lambda Theta Phi, Lambda Fraternity Incorporated. Another is through a nonprofit organization called the Sarah Foundation, and now student government. So with that being said, I will also like to introduce our student panel today.
Testing? Okay. My name is Devin Ambron. My hometown is San Francisco, California. I am a transfer student. I am an undergraduate student, a senior, studying biomedical science. And my three biggest involvements were pre-med AMSA, which is American Medical Student Association, Transfer Student Organization, and also Phi Sigma Pi National Honors Fraternity. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Tony Kurian. I'm a senior here, majoring in biology, and I have a minor in business. Three activities I've been involved with. I'm a member of the USF Ambassadors. I'm also founder and president of the Botanical Gardens Club, and I participate in research with the Chemistry Department, H. Lee Moffitt Cancer Center, and Tampa General Hospital.
Hello. Hi, I'm Shadeen David. My hometown is St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm an undergraduate student, a senior in the exercise science program. The two areas that I'm involved in is I'm the president of the exercise science organization, Alliance of Health and Fitness Professionals, and I'm also an aerobics instructor and bullfit trainer at the Campus Recreation Center.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiffany Young. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a second-year doctoral student in the School of Aging Studies. I have two research interests. My first research interest is in studying older offenders, and my second interest is in developing and evaluating intergenerational programs. I'm currently the president of the Student Association for Aging Studies in our department.
All right, now, what is the purpose of the panel? Why is it that we are here today? Now, the student panel is an opportunity for faculty and staff to discover from the students' perspective how the USF community has contributed to our success in the classroom as well as in the co-curricular environment. Today, these students and I will share how the services provided on campus have supported our efforts to be successful, how the knowledge we have gained from our classes has prepared us for a global society, how the interactions we have had with individuals who work on campus have shaped our lives, and how out-of-class experience has helped us realize our life's passion. Today we're going to share our thoughts and our personal stories and the moments that have shaped our lives and enabled our success. Now, the first question is going to be, what does student success mean to you, right? And it's something that I tackled with constantly, because this is, what does it mean to be successful? And it has changed for me constantly. And what it has become is to develop a culture and inspiring and forming catalysts in other students to motivate them and to gear them to be successful. That's student success for me. And I would like to extend that out to Tony, which is a fellow undergraduate student. What would you add? What is student success for you?
Well, Caesar, just like you said, I also feel like student success for me has been something that has changed since I started school. I'm sure each of you probably have your own unique definition of what student success is, and that's because we're all here with our own unique set of goals. So looking back at my experiences, I've kind of picked out 3 different aspects of student success that I think really define it and give it some flesh. The first and most important thing, in my opinion, is to find what your passion is and what your interests are. I think once you figure that out, you can really utilize university resources and your education to explore those interests and really prepare yourself as best as possible to get into whatever field that might be. The second thing I think would be to find success in the classroom. I remember when I started college, I had the mindset of, I don't want to get too caught up into the college life, and I don't want to get too overly involved in extracurricular activities right away, because what I want to do is focus on developing the study habits and the time management skills that I'm going to need to really start off on the best start as possible as far as establishing the best GPA I can earn and start with the most solid basis and foundation for long-term success in college. And I think those 2 first aspects are 2 really interpersonal aspects of what student success is. Once I felt like I've had a handle on those 2 things, I started to look at student success in a little bit of a broader perspective. And I began to ask myself, how can I get more involved on campus and in the community, in sort of ways that are congruous with my goals and would really allow me to enhance and enrich my college experience in the ways I wanted to. So looking back, those are the 3 things that I think were most important. Finding what your passion and interests are, finding success in the classroom, and once you have those 2 things, accomplished, going beyond the classroom and getting involved on campus and in the community. Thanks.
Now, Tiffany, from a graduate student's perspective, what is your point of view as to how do you define student success?
I would define student success as being competent, being able to feel like you left the classroom and you truly understand what the professor was trying to tell you, what the purpose of the class is, what's the purpose of the career that you're hoping to go out one day and actually have. I think that's very important because I know as graduate students in the classroom, we get a lot of information thrown at us. And at the end of the class, we're so worried because, we're thinking like, okay, this is the point where this is really what I'm going to do one day. So I need to know all of this information. I got to get it. I got to understand it. But you just literally went through 200 articles in a semester. So I think the most important thing that we need to get from classes is the fact that how do we go and actually find these things when we need them? Not that we have to know it all or that we have to remember it all, but how do we go about researching these different materials when we need them? How do we find them? Where do we find them? Who do we contact? So I think that's important that professors and faculty convey those basic skills to students so we don't feel so overwhelmed or so that we don't feel like we're not competent, because the thing is we are. But it's just that we need to have those particular skill sets so that we can say, okay, we know what we're doing. I know where to go find what I need when I need it. I know who to contact. I can do that. And so I think a big part of student success is just feeling like you can do whatever it is you need to do to get done. So.
All right, now we're going to move on to our second question. And it is going to be, looking back on your USF experience, describe an instance that stands out as a pivotal moment in your success at USF. Share with us who was involved in that experience and why it had such an impact on your success as a student. For me personally, it began with the first person that I spoke to from the University of South Florida. And his name is Edgardo, and he works at undergraduate admissions. Before I even applied to the University of South Florida, I called up admissions and I asked them, you know, I'm thinking about going to USF. I've never been to Tampa in my life. It seems nice. What can you tell me about it? Edgardo could have easily said, oh, you go to this website, you look these things up, this, that, and the fourth, and you do your own research. But what he did was he stopped, he talked to me, he told me about the university, and then he even gave me his line so that if I had additional questions, I can call him. And he prepared me to come to USF. He told me what GPA I needed. He told me what to expect. So I believe it's cultivating the interpersonal relationships with people, you know. Another instance also that I would like to share is Dr. Caswell. I'm taking an introductory chemistry course, and it was really foreign to me because I haven't taken chemistry in 2 years, and I came to him, I said, look, I'm having issues studying in this format. And he presented a different format and said, how about you try this? Students have been trying this, and it's been working out for them. He took his time to cultivate that relationship, to show that he is expecting for me to do good in the class. Edgardo was showing me that he was expected me to come to the University of South Florida. So with that being said, I would like Devin to get us started on the student panel.
I'd like to say also that I really like what Caesar said about those first experiences, and allow me to name drop, if I will. My first influence here was Mrs. Carrie Riegler with the Office of New Student Connections. When I first came here to the university, she was definitely that beacon for me. And what I've done is I have a short story that I normally don't like to read things out, but I figured I wanted to share this with you, and it's very brief. I'm going to guide you through an experience as it happened through my eyes. Imagine me standing on stage, looking at an audience 400 people deep. I'm at the first transfer orientation of the year. Nerves are running amok at this point, but there's something different. Merely 6 months ago, when I was at the same orientation, I was sitting in the audience. A microphone is handed to me with the question, what advice do you have for an incoming student? I look out into the audience and I'm staring at the very seat that I was sitting in. The source of my anxiety and excitement came from the realization that I had experienced a role reversal of when I myself was sitting in the same seat that I was staring at that point. I think back to when I was captivated by the inspirational presentation that was given to me by the person who was standing on stage, who I was myself. Being recognized as an individual worthy of carrying not only his own weight, but those of new students as an example and a mentor and a beacon. Since that point, I felt as if I was not only empowered to take control of my own success, but also help to guide the success of others. The following years that I spent at USF since this experience have been with the respect and understanding of those whom I've learned from and those who I had the privilege to be a resource to. And today I sit here in front of you with the same awe that I felt that day, and is why I knew at that moment that I had reached a pivotal moment which I considered my success here at USF. And this is a testimony of my personal experience of when I was employed with the Office of New Student Connections and had that opportunity to impact other students. And I knew that I had really made progress in the right direction when I sat down with someone who was in my career field in healthcare and told me that, you know, you really are going to make a great doctor one day. And those experiences are the kind that make me feel like, in the long run, I'm going to look back at my experiences at USF and know that these kinds of experiences were landmarks to what I have as success in the future.
Well, I also have a very similar experience in my department. First of all, I come from the School of Aging Studies, and the day that I came to interview, one of the reasons I said this is the place for me because it was just so supportive. I mean, it doesn't matter if someone is interested in Alzheimer's disease and someone like me is interested in intergenerational programming. It doesn't matter. Everyone is trying to reach out and help you. And so one professor in particular, her name is Dr. Jerry Edwards. She helped me get out my first author publication this summer. And that was so important to me. It was an amazing experience because she sat down with me and she guided me through that process step by step. I mean, I had no clue of what to write the reviewers and to be nice when they totally dissed the sentence that I wrote that they didn't think sounded nice. I had no clue that I was supposed to respond back in such a pleasant way. But she said, yeah, Tiffany, you have to do that if you want this to be published. And so I said, okay. And so she guided me through that whole process. And now when it's time for me to publish my second and third one, which I'm working on now, I feel totally confident. You know, she instilled that in me, and I appreciate that so much from her. And something else she did, I remember maybe the second week of school, I told her what my interests were. Intergenerational programming. Now, her research is in driving with older adults and Alzheimer's disease interventions. But she gives me a number to an organization that runs support groups for grandparents raising grandkids. She said, call him, see what he can do, just get involved. So, now granted, that was in the fall. I didn't give him a call until the summer. But I gave him a call. He told me to come down to the center. I ended up tutoring some kids. I sat down, I had a meeting with this gentleman. He told me whatever I needed when it came time for me to do my dissertation, he would help me with. If I needed to collect data, if I needed to do a vignette, whatever I needed, just let him know and he would make it happen because he wanted the Family Enrichment Center to be part of my success. So all of that came from Jerry. I got my first publication with her, and then I made a network. I made a partnership with a community organization. And so coming to USF and having that right off the bat, it's so important. It makes me feel confident as a student and in the sense that I can do anything. And it goes back to the first question, feeling competent. That's what we as graduate students, we long to feel that because our goal is to go out into the world and be the best researchers or practitioners that we can be. And so she helped, you know, put me on that road.
Thanks, Tiffany. So I wanted to share just a couple of experiences with you. One of them began a little over a year ago when I approached my organic chemistry professor, Dr. Baker, for a letter of recommendation. He saw on my resume that I volunteered at the botanical gardens, and he mentioned to me, he told me about a colleague of his who was the director of a medicinal garden at the University of Mississippi. Now, this is something I spoke to some friends about earlier, was bringing a medicinal plant garden onto our campus, but I didn't know exactly what steps to take to make that sort of thing a reality. So we went ahead and contacted Dr. Baker's colleague, and we were able to arrange for Dr. Weerasuriya to travel down to USF and bring us a collection of medicinal plants for us to start our own collection at USF. And we've sort of been working on that for a while now. And sort of independent of that, another endeavor I started was to create the Botanical Gardens Club, which has reached 60, which is now 60 students strong. And that club sort of serves as a link between the botanical gardens and the student body, which I kind of felt like there was a gap there. And now we're sort of using that club to increase communication, recruit more volunteers, and sort of just promote events that are going on in the garden. And what it also does is it provides the manpower we need to construct the medicinal plant garden, which is going to be our next big project. So basically, these are two projects I've been working on for a while now, invested a lot of my time in, and I'm starting to see that both the Medicinal Plant Garden and the Botanical Gardens Club have come to a point where they're really going to be established by the time I graduate. And it's something that's really meaningful to me, that I was sort of able to make a contribution to USF that I hope will be a lasting contribution, you know? I really feel like I've sort of found my own way to bring some degree of advancement to the university, which means a lot to me. And what I really wanted to get across to you all is that in every single step of the way, I've been met with an overwhelming amount of support and encouragement from USF faculty and staff. And without that, there's no way I would have been able to accomplish many of the things I have so far. Dr. Meningol earlier today mentioned the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And I really feel like whenever I've had an idea or just any idea and went to a USF faculty or staff member about that, I've seen a great amount of support and encouragement that have really facilitated my ability to accomplish many of the things I've wanted to.
Hello. My first semester at USF, I took the accredited class, the aerobics credit class, and my teacher asked me to wait after class for a second, and she asked me if I instructed, and I did at the YMCA. And she asked me if I would be interested in instructing at our campus recreation, and I was honored. I would love to. So she got me in touch with the group exercise coordinator and put in a good word for me, and a month later I was hired on the team. I felt like amazing that she noticed me out of everyone and that she took her time out of her day to contact the group exercise coordinator and put in a good word for me, so that was nice. And I wasn't used to this. I was used to going to class, having 15 minutes to get to the next class, and then leaving right after to go straight to work. I'm a transfer student, so. And it made me feel loved. I can't thank her enough. Signing up for that class grew my passion for wellness. I changed my major from business to exercise science, and now I'm the president of the exercise science organization. I'm also a bullfit trainer. I have a similar program at the Y that I brought into it, and we called it YFit. And I thought, it would be great if we had an outside boot camp. So I talked to the group exercise coordinator, and she talked to the fitness director, and she had me come in and do a little session for her and a couple of her colleagues, and they loved it. So they brought it into their program, and now there's several instructors, and it made me really feel like a part of USF, that they brought into a program that I introduced. She gave me a chance to try something new, and she took time out of her day and out of her busy week to bring the program to her facility. It just makes me feel good that she would really care. I'm now currently the wellness coordinator at the YMCA. I hopefully will excel my career in the wellness industry as a physician assistant, and touch as many lives as I can. That one teacher that went the extra mile that one day, without her, I wouldn't be graduating in May with the major that's right for me.
Well, what inspiring stories. And they are further evidence of the impact that faculty, staff, and officers have on student success. Yeah, we know that student success can't happen if students don't take responsibility for their education and their own actions. A method that I like to use is I like to help other students, right? I think it's an obligation of mine. The reason why is because other students have helped me. Little minute things. For the first time I even met a student here at the University of South Florida was when I drove 16 hours straight from New York, and I got here about 2 in the morning. And the first student I met was Daniela Silva, and she was an RA at Holly. And I got here the day before transfer student orientation, and all the dorms were booked. She could have easily said, you're going to have to stay here and just sleep the night here at the RA desk. But what she said is, I will ask permission to see if we can open one up early just so you can have access to your room early. She didn't have to, but she did. So actions such as those, I feel that I have to pay it forward. Now, Shadeen, thinking back on your time here at USF, what strategies or techniques have you used in order to be successful?
What I didn't use is I didn't find a major that interests me. So what I feel that students should use is that they should find a major that interests them without influences of others. We have to love what we learn in order to really get into it. Students should really also get involved into organizations, as I did with exercise science at HFP. They should get involved with organizations, societies to help them grow into their area that they're trying to get into. Students should also search for other areas outside of their major as well. A very important ability is to stay organized. That's what has helped me. Since I work so many hours a week and full-time student here and involved with a lot, it helps me to stay organized by using my BlackBerry calendar. Without it, I wouldn't get through the day. Anytime I get an appointment or a task or something that I need to do, a test or assignment, I put it into my BlackBerry calendar, and the night before, I look through it and see what I have going on the next day, and then I just plan my day, and it helps me to stay organized. And then once something is completed, I delete it, and I'm finished with that task. A student's life cannot be all class, studying and working. They have to have time to have fun and release some stress. I do that by working out. Each student should find theirs as well. Also, I have to make sure I have time for family and friends to get all the fun in. Also, we can't always just have fun. We all have to, my motto is work and play. That's what I go by. I finish what I need to do and then play when there's time. Work and play can also mean work hard now as students and then play once we get that nice big salary in. This means students need to stay focused during school, but also have fun. It's great to be involved, but don't forget your studies. We should try to stay on track and fit as much as we can and that we can handle. Thank you.
Seeing as Shadeen mentioned that she uses her BlackBerry calendar, I'd like you all to know that I use my iPhone calendar, just to give equal. Anyway, I would just like to say that from listening to the other panelists' comments, both Caesar, Tiffany, Shadeen, and myself and Tony have all been talking about things that I think are really important, and especially what the common theme is that we're understanding that as though these experiences might seem very banal in some circumstances, that I feel like these empirical foundations of success come from these simple experiences. And I believe that students in a lot of ways advocate their own success. Similar to Caesar, I transferred here from another university, or from a community college, and having that experience, it opened a lot of doors, but also brought a lot of challenges on. And I felt like those experiences that I learned from that were valuable and that are helping me now as a student. Whether that be seeking resources, asking questions, and that sort of thing. And none of this would be possible without having someone to ask the questions for. So I wouldn't be able to ask a question if those resources weren't available here at the university. Relying on classmates or fellow or faculty members or staff members and those sorts of things were just a gross of resources I was able to use. Something that is important to me that I think is of success is understanding happiness. Now, when we talk about all of our success, we think of success in a very, sometimes have a tendency to look at success in a very old-fashioned way. Now, I think that you look at your experiences in life and you say, I want to be in a certain point in 5 years. I want to be in a certain point in 10 years. And we determine how we are successful based on the fact that we have long-term goals and achievements. Now, these long-term goals and achievements are important to making sure that we're on the right track, but it's also to understand that the things that we've achieved thus far as students and as people and as career professionals, that we are really doing something for our community. I think the community the university can contribute to this by understanding the diversity of students and their needs for the workplace. I have a short excerpt here that I wrote. What I think is, with students, is just as parents are counseled not to overprotect their kids, I think that the university should not have the same practice when it comes to their students. Now, what I mean by that is we have to have the opportunity to learn from experiences to fall down, but also have mechanisms and applaud students with standing ovation when they do make the achievements that they've set forth to do. And I think that's a really big portion of success, and it encourages maturity in students that cannot be received any other way, because the experience, and we all know, we've all made mistakes, we've all had trials and tribulations, but in the long run, it was those mistakes that helped make us stronger than we'd ever been or ever thought possible before.
Well, Tiffany, what advice would you give to a fellow graduate student on what they need to do in order to be successful?
There are a lot of things, in all honesty, but one thing I think I would like to speak on in terms of success is that graduate students, we need to be sure that we communicate with our advisors and the faculty. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. The problem with a lot of graduate students is that we forget that we come here to learn. For some reason, we come thinking that we should know it all already, and that you know, we are professionals on some level, but I think we forget the fact that we are here to learn. So oftentimes we'll go into a meeting with our advisor or our professor, and you know, they'll have a task for us to do. And you know, they'll say, okay, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you to do the other. And we shake our head, yes, I can do it, I know how to do it. And then we get back to the desk in our office and we're like, oh my God, I do not know what he asked me to do. How am I going to do this? Oh my God. And then you're searching on the computer, you're letting a week go by, you still don't know what he asked you, how to do it. And you, instead of just going and saying, you know what, could we talk about this again? I'm unsure of how. No, you wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you avoiding the professor, you thinking, oh God, they thinking I'm just, you know, I'm a loser because I haven't followed through on this project. And you know what? If you had just went and said, I don't know how to do this, the professor might have, like my professor told me last week after I'd been avoiding him for 3 weeks. Well, Tiffany, I can show you how to do the weighing system on Strata if you'd like me to. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of anxiety. If I had just communicated to him, I don't know how to do this, he would have showed me. It was that simple. And I think for a lot of graduate students, we do that to ourselves by just simply not communicating. Now, that was something that was simple, but there are also other times when graduate students should communicate when something is going on in their lives. You know, if there's a personal problem or a family problem, we don't want to tell what's going on, but it's so important that you communicate that to, you know, your advisor or faculty member so they can get a sense of what's going on, and they can understand if you weren't able to follow through on this project, or if you were missing this day. They understand. They have life issues and life problems too, but you just need to communicate that. And so, as I said, I think there are a lot of components to graduate student success, but I think communication is a huge one. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Now, before we close, I would just like to recognize the additional students that are here, the table with CLCE. So if they could stand up, thank you so much for being here, and also taking your time so you can see that the university does care, and go out and let other students know what it is that they're trying to do. Now, in closing, you know, I would like to add something, because I was thinking about this the other day, and it was, you know, my administration, and I'm the student body president for about another 4 months, right? And the decisions that we make right now may impact the students that are currently here that will probably be gone within 4 years. But the people that are in this room, the decisions that you make, the new methods that you take are going to impact the longevity of the university, the people that are here. How do you do that, right? And it takes persistence. You have to be persistent at what it is that you're trying to do. The committees such as the Student Success Task Force that are persistent in trying to come up with new ideas as to how to impact students. And I'll share something with you. You know, before I was a bull, I was a lobo, right, at the University of New Mexico. And I was an anthropology minor. Don't ask me why, but I thought it was cool at the time. And I took a class, and we were researching a tribe in Africa. And the method that they use to hunt, it's called persistence hunting. I said, persistence hunting, how do they do that? This is what they do. They take a 3-man team, and they go out and they survey the field. And they have these Saharan elk, huge elk, and they pinpoint an elk that's just about to be a stud. So a big, beefy elk. Not the weakest one, a big, beefy elk. And they pick him out. You have one man that comes in that startles the herd. You have the other man that runs down that one elk to isolate him. And then you have the third person. And this is the most interesting part. And he starts jogging. And the elk is gone. It's gone. But he just sees it. He keeps jogging and jogging and jogging. And they're showing him after 7 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours jogging. And he's sweating. He's perspiring. He has water. And he keeps on going. After about 10 hours, the elk is in the brush. It is exhausted. And the man finally runs up to him, jogs up to him. And what does the elk do? It just gives up. It just lays down. And he comes over, does the ceremonial killing, and he brings back the elk to his tribe. It may seem unattainable right now at this moment, but if you have persistence, your goal is going to give itself up to you. And why is that? Because this is USF. It's the greatest university in the nation. We have things that other universities don't. Just as the man was able to perspire and is equipped with water to run down that elk, we have the same resources to achieve our goals. There's absolutely no difference between us and, say, at MIT, but we need to start believing it today. If you believe that you can achieve greatness, congratulations, you already have. And it starts with all of you. So thank you very much for listening to the panel. And the students will be up here if you want to ask any additional questions. And have yourself a good afternoon.
Did you want to entertain any questions before we move on? Are there any?
Test. Ooh, hi. Well, my name is Jessie Rosenberg, and I work for New Student Connections. So my question is actually because we serve the transfer students, and there's a couple of you up here. I'd be curious about what you think maybe some of the difficulties are as a transfer student, and as we're looking at student success, what you think we can do to help eliminate some of those difficulties.
Myself being a transfer student, I would like to say that one of the big inhibitances was to be successful. I think that you have to have a social aspect to school as well as having an academic, avenue. And one of those things was coming here on the campus. At first, to me, was very, very nerve-wracking because I'm looking around and everybody's got friends. Everybody's sitting at tables, they're hanging out with each other, they're doing their thing. And I think that those experiences, it felt like it was almost unapproachable. And coming to a university where people had known each other for 2 years, 3 years, or even longer for those who have gone to high school together or had opportunities to do other sorts of things outside of school, became difficult. And I think my personal experience at that time was I had the drive, I had the need, everything that inside of me to want to break down those barriers and try to meet people and try to get myself out there. And I think a big thing that the university can do is to understand that one of the biggest things about students is that we are afraid to ask for help. We're afraid to go out into new experiences. And as I mentioned before, the toolkits and everything that we're mentioning here, I think it's important that our faculty, our staff members, our fellow students understand that all of us are sensitive at one point or another and reaching out to one another. And Tiffany mentioned earlier about communication. I think it's these simple things that make the biggest differences in the end. And for me, it was having Mrs. Carrie Rigler herself come and lead me upstairs and do something. And for Caesar, it was an individual helping him get settled in on his first day here at USF. It's those small experiences that make a difference and have you look at the experience and say in the long run, and say that is what it is that helped me to really become who I am today.
I believe it's being able to plug them into a network. I was fortunate enough to already have been in a fraternity, so when I got here, I have never met my fraternity brothers that were here at the moment, but they were able to accept me and plug me in to the university and show me how the university is run. So the sooner we can get those transfer students plugged in with a network and with other groups of students, I think the better.
Hello. If each of you were given an opportunity to be the president of the University of South Florida for one day, what is the one thing that you would do immediately based upon your experience here at USF?